So how's everybody's fun in the commons going? You having a great FTC? Is that what we call it now? FTC? Yeah, that sounds great. Cool. Everyone's really lively after lunch. All right. Just to get a sense of the crowd, how many people know what an actively validated service is? Or have ever heard this term before? Okay. Basically no one. That's okay. I planned on this. I assumed that no one would know that much technical stuff. All right. How many people have heard of WebAssembly before? Okay. Slightly better than actively validated services, but it's okay. There's some high-level technical stuff in this talk, but I also try to mix it with a lot of low-level crazy shit that will hopefully keep it interesting for audiences of all ages and technical abilities. Are we actually starting, or cool? All right. Well, today I'm here to talk about full stack decentralization now. My name is Jake Hartnell. Some people know me from the Cosmos ecosystem. I started a couple of Cosmos blockchains, made this DAO called DAO, which a lot of people use for governance and stuff. And now I'm working on this project called Layer. And shit's really boring in crypto. How many more EVM L2 clones are there going to be out there? It's more fragmented liquidity. Great. How do we get to more interesting stuff again? Great. I've been in crypto for a while. I've been in crypto long enough to remember. This tweet is from Christoph, who was helping out with Ethereum in the early days. And it was the original tech vision for Ethereum, right? All communication, P2P, Swarm for big data, because they were thinking about, maybe we want to build decentralized social applications or whatever. There was Whisper for small messaging, so you could have message passing that's not on-chain message passing. And then, of course, a blockchain for smart contract interactions. And it's what's crazy is this is from 2015, and they're thinking about how we could actually build full stack decentralized apps, right? And this is back when everyone was leaving the Ethereum hyperstition of let's decentralize Uber. Let's replace social media with collectively owned social media. I mean, I think let's stream again. I think the tech has come a long way. We should get back to those 2015, 2016 Ethereum vibes. And yet today, it's hard to build truly full stack decentralized applications. Even if you're on Solana, you can't build decentralized Uber. Smart contracts don't have enough compute. How are you going to do compute over ride matching or these other things, right? Same thing for a lot of decentralized social apps, right? Realistically, a lot of apps these days, and don't get me wrong, I love smart contracts. I love blockchains. I think they're vital and useful, but they can't do everything, right? They're a really good tool. And so we need more off-chain compute. And I'm not going to go too deep into actively validated services, but it's kind of this it's one of the many new metas that's out there right now in the crypto world. It's pretty advanced. There's projects like Eigenlayer, Symbiotic, Babylon, Cosmos people doing stuff. There's a lot happening in actively validated services. All you need to know is that actively validated services are validated off-chain programs, right? That might be running a machine learning workload or an actual server or making a network request. So we need more than just smart contracts. What we really need is actually the stuff you need to make decentralized applications, right? We need decentralized serverless functions. We need decentralized ZK prover marketplaces and networks. We need file and data storage. We need decentralized GPU and all this stuff. These are all actively validated services, sort of categories, right? Maybe we can come up with a better word than actively validated services. Let's just call them programs. They're decentralized programs that are running. And we'll get more to intelligent protocols later. I think I could see the eyes glazing over, so I think we need a demo. And so previously I used to work on this project called DAO, and we've been working on making a service to create a DAO-controlled AI agent. And so what's happening here is this is an NFT DAO, and there's a bouncer, right? And so the first things the user does is connects a wallet, and it checks whether or not they have a certain NFT, right? And then they connect a different wallet, and they have that NFT, and it asks them some questions as well, right? And basically there is a an LLM model that's running behind this, right? That is controlled by the DAO. The DAO votes on what the policy should be. Like, these are the things that we want in order to let in new members. And then it just like automatically goes and carries out that policy, right? So instead of voting to add every new member, we vote on what the policy for new members should be. If you have a public nouns or a bad kid, and if you have one of those NFTs, great, you get extra points, right? If you like Radiohead, more points, right? Like people are just like distilling their wishes down into something that can be like executed by like an AI agent, right? So this is like an example of like some interesting things we can start doing with like services. Like how can we make smart contracts more intelligent, right? Like, and I think a lot of that comes down to things like composition, like being able to compose a smart contract, but then also like, yeah, anyway. This is all really hard stuff to talk about for less technical audiences. How am I doing? Everyone's confused? Amazing. Cool. We have some more demos. I think these are cool if you care about things like restaking or eigenlayer. We've been making in fact, we're really trying to kill the word restaking. You should thank us. I think we're a big fan of commitments. Like, at the end of the day, we don't need to get too much into restaking. Like, our whole deal is just like commitments. You commit to locking up some tokens for X reason with like X potential rewards and X potential risk. It's a long topic, but basically, you know, one of the things that we're trying to do to make this more accessible is like no one cares about infrastructure. Like infrastructure does not exist if there's no UI for it. So we're trying to make as good of UIs as we can for this, right? So you can like easily like make new actively validated services and upload your WASM components and they start running, or you can manage a bunch of stuff. I'll keep going. This is also my first talk I've ever given on this, so thank you all for bearing with me. Cool. So what we're building at Layer, or our first product, is called WOBs. I'm still working on how best to pronounce this. And really what that means is it's WASI and AVS, and we just took those two things together and we made WOBs. But what it is like it's a WASI runtime, which I'll get to, for building these off-chain programs, right? These like AI agents for your DAO, or maybe you want like a custom Oracle. You know, we've been talking with the ecological institutions folks, is like they want to have a program that's running that's gonna get satellite data, right? And then do some decentralized machine learning over that satellite data to compute like a green score, right? Like, oh, the trees like grew this much or whatever, I don't know. And then mint some eco tokens as a result, as part of like, you know, this like automated like process, right? And so yeah, like our goal for this is like let you make these applications with ease. And really the key technologies that we have here, like we're not really reinventing the wheel, is we're just like using the latest and greatest of WebAssembly and WebAssembly system interface. And you can think of WebAssembly as like it's a VM. Like just like the EVM. You guys know the EVM, or? Okay. All right. Well, the great thing about WebAssembly is it runs everywhere, even inside of your browser. One of the best things we can do to like decentralize the web is make it so we can run things ourselves. You know, if you want the best terms of service, you know, run it yourself. You'll never get better terms of service than that. And then WASI is like another extension of WebAssembly that allows to access deeper system level functions. So if you can kind of think of like WASM is like the binary, right? That runs it. And the great thing about it is you can write in many different languages. We even have some Python examples at Layer, so you can just write like a little Python Oracle, very quickly. It supports Rust and many other languages. We love Rust. It's very optimized. It's very fast. It runs everywhere. I think that's really the key piece of why WebAssembly is it runs everywhere, like even on your phone. And distribution really matters, right? Like if we're gonna like, you know, actually build full stack decentralized protocols, we're gonna need web technologies. And then WebAssembly is like the really cool new kid on the block. And basically this gives us access to like low level system functionalities. Like, oh, Jake, we don't need another VM. Can EVM or Move like make network calls? can EVM or move do GPU processing? Can EVM or move like access file storage or random generation or I/O or any of these other things that no. That's the great thing about WASI, right? And we let you build a WASI layer on top of your chain. We're starting with Ethereum, and then we'll go from there. And yeah, the key point is like why WebAssembly matters, even if you didn't understand any of this technology. Decentralized technologies matters because then you can run it on your own, right? And then if you run it on your own, you're going to get a better terms of service than if you just like outsource that to some middleman who's going to steal all your data and then train an AI off your personality and not pay you for it. But really, like, why people are excited about WebAssembly is it's like a much better technology than Docker, and everyone's like building. Well, Docker's great. Don't get me wrong. Docker has a role, but like if we look at the size of like containers, right? The size of the actual like program, like Docker, you have to package in a whole Linux operating system in there, right? So like WebAssembly is a lot faster also in terms of things like startup time. So starting up a Docker container, you have to boot a whole Linux operating system, right? Whereas the WASM code is literally just the executable that for the function you care about. Docker doesn't run in the web browser. Like WASM has just like the best cross-platform kind of support. Yeah, I don't know. Don't take my word for it. Take the founder of Docker. You know, he's a pretty big fan. If WASM existed in 2008, we wouldn't have needed to create Docker. That's how important it is. So this is our product, and it's called WAVs. And it's a WASI runtime for AVSs. And the cool thing about this is you might have heard of, this is very, unless you are really steeped in AVSs and restaking and eigenlayer and stuff, like most people just don't understand how cool this is. But like basically the idea is you have one AVS, you deploy one AVS on eigenlayer. It takes some work to deploy an AVS. You have to recruit a bunch of ETH validators to run your software and basically opt into it, right? So if you wanted to do this every time you deployed a new piece of software, that would be really annoying. And so really the key advantage here, and the one that our friends at Eigenlayer and Symbiotic and other places are excited about, is that like you basically run one AVS that's running the WASI runtime, WAVs, and you can just keep adding dynamically these new components, right? You could be like, oh, you know, regen network or like regen coin on Ethereum. We want to add a new custom oracle, or we want to add a new machine learning process. And you have some sort of governance, like, I don't want to overcomplicate things too much, but you might have some sort of governance process, right, where like the regen DAO votes on adding this new component or new server, and it just starts running, right? Like the other, like, yeah, and at a high level, like, we're just like building on top of like really great things like Reth, and REVM and EigenRS, and we have been also rolling this custom WASM time VM. We will support our initial chains, so this is going to be we're aiming to have this production ready in Q1, and initially we're going to support Ethereum and then OP stack based chains. But shortly after, we're going to be adding support for like many other things. And if you have a project or chain and you would like to have your own sort of crazy compute environment on top of it, a WASI layer on top of it, we'd love to talk with you. Oh no. Amazing. Cool. How much time do I have left? Cool. Sweet. But like, we have to take things like next level. And one of the things that we've been working on that I'm not sure if many teams have been working on the AVS space is like really thinking about composition. You know, these services are great just by themselves, right? If we have that AI agent service or a decentralized LLM service or a decentralized inference service, like that's great. But what's even better is if we can compose that with other services, right? And one of the things that the WebAssembly component model has is composition built into the system. And so we've actually been, that's kind of how the example I showed you earlier worked, right? Where you were there was like some on-chain event, right? And then that like triggered like a bunch of stuff to happen. We can think like this is what intelligent protocols really are. Is like how do we compose many of these on and off-chain components in ways that are reactive, verifiable, and on-chain. Like in this example, like there might be a swap event, right? Like on a DEX or something. And then you might have an AVS, an actively validated service, a program that's like listening to the chain, right? It's like it's now aware, amazing, and then it goes and checks the prices of like other assets, right? Passes those off to some model, right? And then maybe that generates some ZK proof, or maybe it figures out some like intent kind of thing. I don't know. It's like at the end of the day, I think composition is like super undervalued, and I'm really excited to be thinking about how we can compose these things into intelligent protocols. Great. And then in the future, we're working on even crazier stuff, which I'll just save later for anyone who wants it. I want to leave a little bit of time for questions, but I guess as a final point, like we should not be satisfied with the state of the decentralized web. We have a lot farther to go, and we have to move really fast, really quickly, because other technologies, other, crises that we're facing in the world are moving very fast, right? And so, yeah, I don't know. Even if you don't want to use this stuff, please at least join us in the decentralized web maxi movement. And if you want to find out more, it's like layer.xyz, or come talk to me, and we'll build cool shit. Any questions? Cool.
So I guess my question is about the having people vote on the vibe check at the outlay of your demo, and having that vibe check be something that gets voted on. I guess my question is around like, has there been some thought put into like, hey, who's your favorite, band, that it's inclusive in terms of what data sets are going into the AI model?
I think that's a great question. And the cool thing about that is, I'll go back to it, is like the DAO, like that group sets what the policy is, right? And so
but
it's up to
the group may not necessarily be super diverse. And I say that because like maybe I like Bob Marley or, Lauryn Hill. Is that am I gonna pass the vibe check? No, right?
Yeah, well, you don't want to even be in that group anyway, because groups that don't like diversity are just like not as based, and they're not as cool, and they don't go to as cool parties, and there's probably no women at their like, events, and like, those, like, we can look down on those people and we can judge them, right? This is...
Make your DAOs like Lauryn Hill is all I'm saying.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it does, like... It's an example to start discussion. Some of our other demos that we're working on are like really cool dynamic NFT examples, where you have like NFTs that like evolve as other things just start happening on chains. I think that actually, like, we were talking a lot about like the ecological institutions use case, and how we can like build like hive minds of collective intelligence and have like many different inputs into decision makings, right?
Book called The New Jim Code by Ruha Benjamin, which talks about how AI models... Okay, so plug, there's a great book called The New Jim Code by Ruha Benjamin that talks about when AI models leave people out. And so specifically for things that require vibe checks that get voted on by other people, I just want to flag it, not as like a direct challenge to you, because I think this is great, but just as a reminder that like AI can't necessarily do everything.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think my challenge is also like, let's just make it better. Like, let's make AI more based. We can either like, there's technologies that are happening, right? And we can either be steering the technologies with our politics, right? And our values, or we cede the territory and then these other fuckers come in and make the world a shitty place. So seize the means of production. Don't just sit back and complain. Let's like fucking make a more based AI that is trained on indigenous grandmas that want to like give us their collective wisdom, and we will all like have fun chatting with them.
awesome. I love that. I love that.